Hello and welcome to Jump Advisory, the final webinar in the series of Jumpstart Your Business for 2021. As I said, it's the last one in the series. Don't worry, guys. I've had a lot of people asking about whether we're going to carry on doing the webinars into the new year. And let me tell you, the webinars will be going on far longer than COVID will be going for. So let's hope we work from there. So it's the last in the series. And to me, this is the most important one of the series about building your business strategy for 2021, because this is the thing that puts all the glue together and sticks everything together. This week, we're going to talk all about mindset. And everyone talks a lot about the right mindset in people, that people buying people, never be giving up, being resilient, being more focused. However, in recruitment, there's one big difference towards selling a product, because we sell a high value service. However, our clients don't actually trust us, which leads me to think we need a slightly different mindset to what we normally have to actually go out there and do things. So we're not selling. Recruitment to me is always about matching our service to a client's need, matching a client's problems to our solutions, matching candidates and clients to each other. And I think I described it as this is an M&S selling mindset. This is a matching mindset. So mindset shifts come when we realize it's not about finding the right product for them to buy. It's about, are you the right person that they will trust to deliver? So looking at mindset, the recruitment industry puts out there at the moment is very strange. We're aggressive at sales. We're very target driven. We're very hungry. We're very bums on seats. We're takers, not givers. And worst of all, when we start to think about how clients see us from a mindset point of view, we're also very subservient, because we're so desperate for the business sometimes that we actually drop our pants to win a deal when we should be actually walking away. So these are all mindset issues rather than anything else. And it's the mindset from both sides that we need to start to change. Recruiters need to try to sell in a way that clients want to trust us. So we need to change our mindset, because it's our mindset that the clients actually buy. So for us to to make a placement, we need to think, what do we need to change from a mindset for clients to actually buy that? So let's start to look at that. Changing this is how we are perceived by the marketplace, and those that really excel at recruitment, when we start to analyze those that excel at recruitment, those that build long-lasting relationships, actually have a mindset that's all about matching. And that's a huge change. So the question is, when we say people buy people and passion sells, we know that people buy people. But is it the mindset that they're buying, or is it just the person? So when we start to analyze that, that's what we've got to start to think about. It's the mindset that creates the excitement, the fervor, the drive, the vitality from people. So let's move into what we're talking about, because that is the most important weapon that we can release in 2020, having a very positive mindset about how we're going to change that. So when we open the topic of debate with the usual jump team, which are here, so we've got Dave Pye, Paul Sharp. Paul Jacobs, unfortunately, can't be with us today because he's actually working with the REC today and helping the REC with their new structure and what's going on from there. So he can't take us. But what we've said we're going to deliver at the end of this process is we're going to deliver some takeaways for you. And I will deliver Paul's takeaways that he sent to me earlier this morning of what he wants you to take away from this. So let's talk about mindset. So I'm going to open over to you, Paul. And I have to call you Sharpie this week because this is the only Paul here. So Paul, over to you. Mindset, where would you start?
I heard a rumor that PJ was actually working for Amazon again this week, not at the RAC, but maybe that was just a rumor.
Just a rumor, I think, Paul.
It's a really good question. I think for me, I think the starting point, and we've labelled this point a little bit in the past, so I'll try to keep it brief. But the starting point has got to be about how people are feeling about your business. How are your people engaged? How are they motivated by what you're trying to do in your business? How do they feel about the vision? Do they buy into the vision? Do they support the vision? Do they feel part of the vision? Do they feel that they have a purpose within the vision? And I think, we talk about vision a lot, and I think sometimes we underestimate as leaders just how important that vision is. So people understanding, where your business is going over the next 3 years. That doesn't mean to say we focus only on the 3-year point, but it's having a longer term vision I think is really important. And I think we've been through so much change this year with COVID and everything else that's gone along that, a lot of people that I speak to, their market has changed, their product set has changed, what they sell has changed, how they engage with clients has changed. So I think checking that vision out now and getting it out the cupboard and looking at it and dusting it down and just checking if it's fit for purpose for 2021, I think has got to be the starting point. And if you do that, and if you involve your people and you share the vision and share the purpose, what we're trying to achieve here is a really motivated group of people that work for you and are really clear in terms of what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. And if you've got that, it'll translate into how they interact with the customers. Dave, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually, Paul, what you're saying, because I think H, at the very beginning, you said that we as an industry are target driven, sales led, we're takers, bums on seats. It will be interesting as leaders on this call for you to ask your people what it is that motivates them, because some of those things may be what you think motivates them, but actually they will possibly be, and I would suggest after the last year we've had, probably be more motivated by something else. Aligning the purpose. We've spoken about purpose and trust being the new currency of success many times. So have that conversation with your people about their motivation. What is it that is getting them up to come to work? What is their story and how does that fit into your story? Because as salespeople, normally, for the most part, and as leaders, we're pretty good communicators. So if we are communicating to our candidates and to our clients, part of our story, what we're about, why we work for the company that we work for, what is their story, what's the journey that they're on, how they've been impacted by this year, what they're doing to face the challenges for next year, that's all about purpose. And that is all about motivation. And they will be more motivated to succeed if they think you understand what drives them, what makes them come to work. And particularly when we're still in a situation where, half of our staff maybe for the next year won't be coming into work. They'll still be working from home. So find out what it is that motivates them, find out what it is that drives them, what's their purpose, and align that with the company purpose as well. And then you've got more of a chance of success.
I think that's a really interesting point. I think certainly something that I've done in the past is linked personal and professional, goals. And it's all about, how you can align the motivation for one to be intrinsically linked with the other and vice versa.
Yeah.
As an example, if somebody in your team wants to pay off, a car loan or move to a house with a garden or, go traveling, it's about how you can try and use the workplace to enable those personal goals to be achieved. And, I've used something called orbits, personal orbits in the past. If anybody wants any more detail, all they have to do is just pick up the phone after this webinar. And it's all about aligning those two parts of people's lives. I think that's really important. Just going back to the purpose bit for me, Dave, I think, if you're really clear on your purpose and your vision, then you'll be clear, more than likely, you'll be clear on what it is that you're doing that is different. And I also think, our people need to be motivated thinking that they're better or knowing that they're better than the competition out there. And I think, a lot of the people that we speak to are all local independent agencies. They've got so much more going for them than working for a really big, agency where you can't affect change. And so understanding as part of your purpose, how you stand out in that local marketplace and what you do that is different and really communicating that, laser sharp, I think is really important, and getting your people to be part of it and to feel proud that they wear the badge and they're doing something that's a little bit different in the market.
Yeah, and I think it's the thing that separates companies. They forget this. The story, your company's story, your personal story is often the only thing that is different from some of your competitors.
Yeah.
You could be a niche player in the RPA market and find out that there's another 2 niche players in that market somewhere else.
Yeah.
You could have a very agile workforce where they're all working from home and find out that somebody else is doing that. You could be only doing retained business and find out that somebody else is doing that. The thing that nobody else is doing is communicating your purpose and your story. It's the thing that is absolutely unique. Remember back in the day, we used to have USPs, unique selling points. I had a boss that used to go on about, what is your USP? Now it's a little stick, isn't it? But the purpose, the only thing you've got, that's a USP, I know. But the only thing we've got now really is our purpose and our story and why. And then we get into, and this is what we do, RPA or working from home or whatever that is. That's really important.
So when we start to look at it in that way, guys, and it is about looking at it in that way, we start to look about personal motivation, we start to look about the business purpose and how we link those two together. But they're two very different things, and there are two very different journeys that we're going on. But what we've got to start to think about is when we start to look at motivating our staff to sell, it is about their own individual purpose. Because when we talk about motivation, we talk about how motivation works. What you start to see is those people that are really motivated to engage with your clients. And we talked right at the beginning of lockdown that if you look after your people will look after your clients. And that is all about the purpose on how you look after your people and how they will look after your clients. So if your consultants are going to your clients and they're just chasing the paycheck, so to speak, then they're not really engaging with your clients. But if they're going to your clients with a purpose and their purpose in mind, then they tend to drive that. And it's time to start to look at the motivators between the two. And I've often said this to lots of recruitment agencies, and I've said this when I was recruiting people myself. When you start to interview people, and when it's be to join the business, whether it's part of their review processes, etc., and you start to talk about what motivates them. 99% of all salespeople will say money, but when you dig underneath the skin, you suddenly find it's not money. They're programmed to say money because that's what they say, that's what people have told them to say. You've got to say you're motivated by cash. You've got motivated by earning more money. But when you actually dig underneath, it's often something completely different that actually drives them. And once we realize that that situation is out there and that it is different, then we've got to start to think about how we then interact with that motivation and how it links into the purpose and how it links into the vision and the business strategy. Because obviously what you're going to have is you're going to have their strategy to deliver their motivation and their purpose, and you're going to have a business strategy to do both. So if you start to think about linking those together, then when we talk about purpose, people, profit, then that's what we're sort of thinking about. So what's the purpose? What's our people's purpose? And will that sort of drive us to them to make more profit? So I think it's really important that we get to do that. And I think, Dave, you were talking about when we were sort of setting this up, that leaders need to articulate their vision to their people more to be able to sell it to their client. So Dave Madden's asked us a question, quickie, why are we always worried about being different? Because if everyone was the same, Dave, then we'd all pick the same things.
I think also, Howard, for me, if you're not different, then my experience tells me at some point you'll have margin erosion.
Correct.
Because you're no different to anybody else. And there's so many cases when I've been on the receiving end of that in terms of, being asked every year or every other year to lower your fees. And so for me, I think being different is really important. I think finding just one or two things where you're different is really important. And some of the work that I've been doing with some of my clients is around just using one or two things that will just help you stand out a little bit more in your local market and be perceived to be something slightly different to the competition. So I think it's really important.
I think also difference is important when you come to hiring. Who wants to go and work for the same company?
Brilliant point, Dave.
If you're all the same, okay, well, why go and work for that company? It's just the same company with a slightly different commission scheme, a slightly different office look, a slightly different brand. It's not as exciting. But if you're offering something different, either in purpose or in innovation or in the way that you execute or in the way that you listen to your employees, that is going to help you attract some very good people. And lest we forget, right now, there are some very good people on the market that you may be thinking about your talent plan for 2021. There's some good people out there. So for me is important.
I'll just give you an example of that. I think that's a fantastic point, Dave. And a few years ago, you know, I was worried about the retention rate, as a lot of people were in their business, you know, finding it difficult to recruit. And the one thing, you know, people value, especially the younger generation, well, when I say younger, I mean a lot younger than me, they value time. And so the one thing that I did, which made a massive difference, and I didn't really quite appreciate the impact that it had at the time, was changing the holiday system, something quite easily done. And we started, you know, everybody coming into the business had 25 days as a minimum, and it went up to 35. So it acts as a real anchor for you people that have been with your business a long time, because giving up, you know, days or 35 days holidays is a big thing. And equally, you know, people coming into the business, they start off as something fairly good. And I also did stuff around CSR, you know, giving people time off for CSR work. So there are things that you can do. And my argument was always to the board that whilst it is time, we're all connected now. So even when we're on holiday, the vast majority of people are still connected to the phone anyway. And your top billers, they're not going to stop, you know, a day's holiday, then, you know, not getting a deal over the line. So I think, you know, just little things like that really, really help.
So let's bring that back into mindset then, because I think we're sort of straying away from mindset and going down sort of how you build a brand more than anything else, because it's the brand that makes you different. Let's get back into mindset, because this is what this webinar is really all about. And I think the first thing when we start to create mindset and change mindsets in a recruitment agency is when we start talking about setting goals, because setting goals can either be a mindset breaker or a mindset creator. So let's talk about how we set goals and why we set goals, and how those goals motivate people, and how those goals should be linked to the purpose and the value of the business.
So I think for me, my favourite saying, and this irritated me for some time, but it is probably one of my favourite sayings, which is, you know, what gets measured gets done. And I think it's a really accurate saying. So for me, you know, we've talked about vision, we've talked about purpose, but having some goals, and goals can be, you know, financial for the business, they can be, you know, new services, new products. From a people perspective, every individual should have some career goals. They may be promotional, they may be, you know, going on and doing something different in a different role, you know, moving from delivery to sales, or sales to account management. But everybody should have a personal and professional goal. And I think sometimes, you know, we forget just how important those conversations are. They don't need to happen every month, but they should be happening every 3 months. So we should be checking in with people, from my perspective, you know, every quarter, and just recalibrating how we started the year and if we're on track to achieve it. It's proven, Howard, that, you know, career opportunities, training and development, and goals and aspirations is one of the 3 things that motivates people and really engages your workforce.
Yeah. I think when we talk about motivation and creating desire, you know, motivation and desire comes in short, medium, and long-term spurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we work on those to bring those things back. And I always think, if you look at the long term, and your brain has something called GSOL, okay, which is how it indexes everything. So if I said, let's set a target for December 2021, where does your brain register that? It registers it 12 months away in December 2021, and doesn't start to really act on it until it gets towards December 2021. So when we start to think about giving annual targets, what I always did with my guys was I broke my targets down into small individual chunks that they could achieve every day. And it was about that daily achievement, that now, what they are focusing on the now, that actually helped them to drive them beyond the line. If they realize that they have to do those type of things in the now. So I would never focus on the big figure, the big number. I would focus on all the little things that would lead to calculate together to make that big figure and what they could do now. And what I found, that the motivation in my staff never seemed to wane, even when they were starting to slip behind target, because we could always put things in to help them get them back towards target and drive towards target. So it's really important that if you are going to look at goal setting, it's not just setting a goal for the year, it's break it down to that daily bit that says, right, what motivates people, what gets people out of bed, what can you achieve? At the end of the day, what can you measure that's been a success, and what can you measure that's been something that you can improve? That's what people start to look for, because that's what motivates them. Those little wins, those little gains, those little things that pick them up every single day. That's what motivation is all about. Dave, you're going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, I think there's a danger here for us as slightly older folk in recruitment, and there may be a few there, in that we are assuming that some of our people want careers. They don't. They want jobs that they go to, that they're well motivated by and they enjoy. And we hope, and as leaders, we hope that they stay with us. But 20 years ago, when you got a job in recruitment, if you were successful, you stayed, and you stayed in recruitment. That isn't the same for people that are now looking for work. They're not thinking about staying with you for 3, 4, 5 years. So having something that's really long term, whilst we may want them to stay, because that's important to us, it's important for candidates, important for clients, they may not be thinking that. And that's where, for me, you link motivation with goal setting. You need to understand what they're about and why they're working for you and what it is they want in the next 3 months and 6 months and 9 months. And then you look at what your business needs in the next 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. And success will come when those two things are aligned. It won't be as successful a business if you're wanting one thing in the next 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months, and they're wanting something else. And that's quite a difficult conversation to have and to get to understand. But if COVID and all of what we've gone through is taught us one thing, constantly communicating and understanding where our people are, looking at their goals for this week and for this month and for this quarter is a really important thing to do.
So I think also for me, I think you're absolutely right. What I would say, Dave, is that whilst I agree that not everyone wants a career or career progression, most people want development.
Yes.
And most people want to learn.
Yes.
And as a leader, are your people being developed by you, and are they learning from you? And if they're not, you either need to hire somebody into your business so that people are, or you need to fix that problem. Because I can tell you now from my experience, I've become pretty demotivated and disengaged when you stop learning from people, because then it does become all about money. And I think that's a dangerous place to be. The second point I was just going to say, there's quite a few people on the webinar who are independent one-man bands, or they've gone down to 1 or 2 people. I think it doesn't matter what size of business you are. I think breaking down the goals, so having a vision, having a purpose, having a 3-year plan, but then breaking it down, I think is really important. Yeah. I think, one of the things that I've really struggled with during lockdown, particularly at the start, was just being self-motivated. Never struggled with it before in my entire life. So I had to find something that motivated me. And, for me, it was going out running in the morning. Okay, I know Georgia Hall's on the call. He's probably looking at me thinking Paul doesn't run, and he's probably right. It's more jogging. But just finding something where you're setting yourself a goal and then trying to beat it or trying to hit it or achieve it, whether it be personal or work, it's really important, whether you're on your own or whether you're part of a team of 10 or 20 or 30.
Yeah, I go with it. Absolutely.
When we look at that, that's all about then setting KPIs, isn't it? And KPIs isn't all suddenly about figures, because that you're setting your target for a goal is a KPI to achieve. And we're talking about at the end, we'll talk about some of the things that we're rolling out with regards to some of the blogs we wrote. And I've written a blog regarding goals, motivation, and purpose. And I was saying, when we got to lockdown 2, we'd done so much in lockdown 1 with regards to getting Jump off the ground and building that. I forgot my own personal desire, my own personal goals. And I set something up then to go away and achieve those things. And what I found that once I started to understand my goals, it made me a lot happier. Once I was a lot happier, I become a lot more productive. I become a lot more focused. And so linking your KPIs and say KPIs aren't all about the money, it's about all the actions, but then it's training and developing people to actually achieve those KPIs. So in what I would talk about, your weekly activity, your monthly activity, your quarterly activity reviews, what you're talking about is what's gone you can't change, and what's in the future is in the future. Let's work on what we can change now and address now. And it was all about their results and about their performance and how you could improve that performance and drive that performance. And that's what motivated staff. That's what motivated people. What you're talking about, Paul and Dave, was when you're coming and driving purpose together, the business purpose and individual purpose. If you're talking about how the business is driving towards their individual purpose and vice versa, that's when you get synergy, and that's when you start to see truly motivated teams and what's going on. And that motivation, I always think motivation is a very interesting anomaly, and it is an anomaly. And you can walk into the room and you can motivate people very, very quickly, and that motivation comes with a massive adrenaline spike, and then all of a sudden the motivation stops and they all tail down again. And I've seen this happen with companies where they've set themselves a big goal, they've gone away and hit that goal maybe quicker than they thought, and then all of a sudden they drift and they get a little bit lost because there's nothing behind them now to really motivate them. And that's where you're linking your motivation to your purpose, because that motivation will always spike and drop, and it's trying to find the second wind to take you onto that next level. And that's where your purpose really picks in. That's when your purpose really drives you. And that purpose could be very simple. I mean, my purpose is very, very simple. Just be the best I can be, and every day try to be the best that I can be. And that really drives me. So it doesn't matter whether I'm looking at a personal thing or a business thing, that drives me. So trying to get that mentality in people's heads that you can motivate people by cash, you can motivate people by a stick, you can motivate people by anything that you like, but it will wane very quickly if that motivation isn't being fed. And the biggest feeder of motivation is purpose and driving purpose into the business. And that leads to then how people react in that moment in time. And what we're talking about then is how that person from a mental well-being point of view can then actually react in your business. Because as I said, the happier I am, the more productive I am. The more engaged I am, the more productive I am. The more I can see my goals tumbling and then setting stretch goals and stretch goals and stretch goals, the more driven I become to go away and achieve those goals. And that's all by having someone breaking it down into those small little steps for me to achieve. So mindset becomes a very powerful tool to drive that. And I always go back to the arguments that I had at Adecco about setting the big annual target for taking 10 of the top performers away somewhere. And I said, it is the most demotivating target that you ever set, but you think it's the best target. And they said, well, why do you think it's demotivating? Because I said, because I can guarantee by the end of Q1, 50% of the business do not think that target is attainable, and therefore they are demotivated by that target, but that's what you push out. I can guarantee when we get to Q4, where you want all your people pumping, only 10% of the companies interested in that target. And that's really, really poor because it's a big target to hit. But if people don't think it's attainable, then it's there. I went to work for a different company, a smaller company by all means. And what they said was, we will take a percentage of the business, didn't label it, a percentage on the business based on the turnover of the business and the profit that we make from the business away. So there was an opportunity there for the whole business to go on that trip. How motivated were they in November and December to hit their targets? So motivation is a real interesting thing, and how you drive that. And that is all about the mental well-being of people.
Yeah. I think what I would say now to every single person sitting on this call, please let us have a trip. We want to go away. Yeah, so if they're thinking about doing an incentive, we're going to have to wait a little while. But I think maybe this year of all years or next year it will work. but I take your point. I think what would be an interesting exercise for people to do when they look at their KPIs is keep the KPIs and whatever KPIs you've got, and then replace the P in performance with P for purpose. And write down what your key purpose indicators are. What are they for your business? And how are you measuring them with your staff? We've done, I've done in the last 9 weeks now, 8 jump forward plans where we're sitting with the chief executives of, some of you will be on this call, chief executives of businesses, and we have put together a 2 to 3 page document looking at all of these different aspects. And within that is the purpose, the key performance indicators and everything. Because, you know, in some respects, we've been through a year where we started off where we've had to react. We've had to react to what's going on. We've had to try to survive and keep going. We've responded as best we could. And we've all done the things that we felt were right at the time. For the most part, we've recovered. Either we've done the things we've needed to do, but now we're into that, but we now need to reshape. And 2021 is about reshaping. And reshaping for me is all to do with purpose, mindset, motivation, because reshaping is what makes us right for the rest of next year.
Let's talk about morale then, because morale's a real big thing, isn't it? And morale can be, you know, a positive driver. It can be a negative driver. So let's talk about morale of staff.
I think I just want to I think Alan's just asked a question, Howard. So I just want to, I think the time is probably quite good now to answer the question and cover that question off that you've just asked. And I think for me, I think it's absolutely spot on. I think what you measure as a business speaks volumes about what your values actually are. And if you're saying you're, you know, really people focused, you care about individuals, and it's not just about profit, it's about, you know, people feeling fulfilled at work, but then you don't measure it, I mean, there's just no point. It's saying that one thing, then doing something completely different. And your values, you know, really come to life when you, as a leader or a manager, you absolutely demonstrate on a consistent basis, day in, day out, and you know what the values are is what you're all about. So if you're not measuring something other than you know profit and sales and numbers and contracts out and everything else, then you're not about the people. I'm not saying that you have to be about the people, because not everybody might want to be that type of organization, but I'd suggest if you're not, then you're probably missing a trick. And for me, the measurement bit comes about, you know, checking in with people, whether you know 3, 4, 5-man team or a 10-man team. It's just checking with people how engaged they feel and how they feel about how they're being managed, how they're being led, where the business is going, and how they're feeling about themselves. And within that self bit, I think, you know, we talked a little bit about mental and well-being. I think those are questions that you should be asking people, is how they're feeling regards to the mental health. I think understanding how they feel about the vision is really important. How they feel about how they're being invested in is really important. And I think if you're not measuring it, you're missing a trick. And I did a debate with a CEO a few months back, and you know, they were saying, oh, you know, everybody's saying, you know, really positive things. Well, they would do, because you were running the survey and they were fearful about how people were going to respond, because in SurveyMonkey you can actually track responses. So, you know, this is why I think taking the temperature check is really important, doing it through a third party, and there's loads of third parties out there that can help you. But getting that temperature check really early and understanding how people feel is really important. And I think breaking it down in that way is equally important for me. And if you're not measuring it, how do you know how people are feeling? You can't go off gut feel all the time.
No, I think that's absolutely right, Paul. And it's interesting because Andy Turner's just made a point or a question. When we talk about morale and we talk about motivation, we talk grandly about the company morale and the company motivation, but it's not. Every single person has their own motivation, and morale is different for every single person. It is rare to find a company, I think, where everybody is aligned all the time with the same motivation and the absolute same morale, because we're all completely different. Human beings are completely different. There was a survey that was out in the Times yesterday. They did a whole thing on the future of work. And of all of the people they responded to, 20% of people said they have never felt more lonely. 15% of people said they are so frustrated with working from home because they're so distracted. Well, let me tell you, that's going to have a real effect on their morale and their motivation, and therefore the company performance. That's 1 in 5, and that's just on that survey. It may be not true for your company, but unless you ask, you won't know.
So this is the question.
That's the point that I think Paul's trying to make as well.
This is the question that I was hoping someone was going to ask, because it saved me actually sort of bringing it out as a subject topic in the first place. So thanks, Andy. And I think the big thing is when we start talking about those little individual one-to-one meetings that we have, finding that personal motivation, how those people are motivated, what they do to be motivated is really, really different. And I use lots of different simple things that, you know, I would know in my offices who would like to be lauded and applauded. You know, let's get up and applaud that person because they've done a really, really good job. I know other people that would completely demotivate them and make them really shy and sink. So just dropping them a simple email to them or walking past them and whispering in their ear, that was an awesome piece of business. That was a great piece of business. Suddenly changed how each individual was. So what you work out is what actually drives and motivates people, and how do you drive that motivation? Because each person's different. So you've got to manage each person slightly differently. Now that might seem and deem to be quite time consuming, but once you get as a manager in the rhythm of that, then all of a sudden it becomes really good. And what you suddenly find, it could be a nod and a wink across the office. It could be a little signal across the office to someone that just drives them somewhere. It could be that you see someone getting frustrated, so you take them out of the office and have a conversation with them. It could see someone just do something, you just stand up and say, do you know what, Paul, that was a great piece of advice. That was a great comment that you've just given to that candidate. And that really, to them, it's about focusing on the individuals to get the team collective together. And you motivate individuals in a very, very different way. And I think the biggest part of that motivation is you as a leader and your morals and how you portray your morals and project them back onto your staff. Because if you're asking them to do something completely different to what you are perceived as, then they're never going to take the motivation from you, because that's going to be very, very different. So you've got to sort of almost live and breathe your staff as well as them live and breathing your business. And I think you said in the meeting, Paul, at the heart of a great business plan is a great people plan. And that to me is part of that people plan, is that you understand each individual to that minute degree. And what I found when I've been going out and talking to my clients, because they are working from home, they're suddenly finding out so much more about their employees. And some of them that are acting accordingly are working at how can they help their employees at home? What more can they do for them at home? Which again then starts to create that business bond to them. And then it creates more momentum, creates more motivation, because you're now helping them with their personal life and their purpose overall. And it's simple things, you know, very simple things. You talked about holidays, Paul. At a company, I actually rolled out unlimited holidays, to which the CEO was absolutely mortified. How can you roll that out? And at the end of the year, when I said, let's compare the year before to this year's holidays taken, they took less holidays. They worked longer hours. But the fact that they had that opportunity to take more holidays was an absolute godsend to them and absolutely boosted morale. Because when people said, I was scared to ring in this morning because I had to drop the kids off at school or go for a dentist appointment, or I just wanted to take my partner out on a Friday afternoon for a drink, etc. They had the holidays to do that. And it made it so much different, because it made it very, very personal rather than just a business decision. So motivation comes from all sorts of different sides of the business, and individual people are motivated in individual ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. What I would just say is that if you did wink across at me across the office, that would not motivate me. By the way, that would worry me. But anyway, we'll move on.
There are certain people that want things thrown at them, Paul, to motivate them. You would be that person.
No,
But I do think, it comes back to me and Andy's point, which is you're not asking the questions if you're not taking a temperature check. And it's the same as Alan's point about measuring things that are not just results focused, and measuring how engaged and how motivated the people feel is really important. And for me, every organization, and Andy, even if you're 12 people, you should be taking that temperature check every 3 months of your people and working out whether it's going up or down or staying consistent.
And I'm just going to give a shout out here, because the work that we do mainly is with the leaders, the founders, the MDs of business. This matters for you. We speak a lot about our people because they are important, but actually, who is motivating you? Who is challenging you? Who are you accountable to? Who is giving you the support that you need? Because all of this is really important to keep your business afloat, to keep you going. But actually, isn't it tiring? Isn't it hard work having to think of all these things and remember all these things? And it actually has an effect on you as the leader, as the founder of the business. I've been working just in the last 48 hours with somebody who's running a fantastic 13-person business, we call them 2 offices, 2 places where people used to come to work. And actually, it's proving to be really difficult for that person mentally, and it's a challenge. So just take that time to think about, actually, what about me as well, because that's really important. And we can offer some assistance, some guidance, some help, some support on that for you, because we believe in you and we think that's really important.
And sometimes, Dave, as you know, that's just an hour a month, or a informal virtual coffee, every 2 or 3 weeks. But I think you're right, and I received a very heartfelt message, which certainly resonated with me this morning through LinkedIn, and the individuals on the webinar, so I won't embarrass them. But it can be really lonely. But even if you're in a bigger business, if you're on your own and it's a one-man band, or if you're a team of 5 or 6 or 7, I think as a leader, the one thing that I underestimated early doors was just, it's like being on stage all the time and you're performing and you can't let your guard down. And that's not natural, really. We've all find a place where we can go and we can have, a conversation which we may not have in front of our people, or it may be a conversation that we don't want to have with our partner.
So I think as we talk about sort of that type of thing, what we're sort of edging on the outskirts of is training. And I think training, we're notoriously poor at selling features, advantages, and benefits. And we all know that it's the benefit that whets the appetite to buy. Now, if we start to flip that and start to look at our people, what are we giving to our people that's a feature, an advantage, and a benefit of our business that will then help drive motivation and help them tie them to their individual purpose and the business purpose? And when you start to look back and start to think about the things that you've rolled out that you think were great for your staff, look at the feature, look at the advantage, but have you actually measured what the benefit actually is to their staff? Because I know people have rolled all sorts of things out. Look at the big annual competition that lots of agencies roll out. Yes, it's a benefit, but only to a minute part of staff that actually qualify for it. The rest don't care. So the features and advantages of that doesn't make any difference to them, because it doesn't whet everybody's appetite. So when we start to roll things out, we've got to start to think about the features, advantages, and benefits of everything that we do for our staff and for the business. Because if you don't understand the benefits, then the features will never sell themselves, and therefore the benefit will never actually become part of the parcel of the business and actually drive the business forward. And that's when we talk about inspirational leadership and how inspirational leaders actually push those things across to people.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about this. I from a business perspective, I've spent many years looking at sales collateral, presentation material, bids, content, you name it. I've seen a lot of it, and more often than not, I think as recruiters, we're really good at selling the features, but we're not great at selling the benefits. And it's the benefits that people buy. And so, you know, whether you're writing an email, whether you're producing a slide or a PDF document, or you're pushing something out on LinkedIn, or you're doing a presentation, you know, I think that benefit bit is really important. And, you know, I worked with a bid manager up until recently, and you know, very, very experienced bid manager. And, you know, when I'd signed the bid off, I'd always, you know, go through it in great detail. And I'd always ask, you know, the individual the same question, which is, you know, we've written some great content here, but we're not actually linking it back to what the benefit is to the client. And it's the benefit, it's the benefit what the client buys. It's not the feature, it is the benefit.
So I think as we start to sort of come towards the end of this webinar, you know, it's usually the end of webinar is an hour, and we can't show we put it out some at 45 minutes, some for an hour. Okay. We did say we were going to bring out 8 things that you could do between now and Christmas. So in January, we're ready to roll. Now, obviously, Paul was part of this until he had to go to work with the REC today. So I'm going to give Paul's first 2 things that he said, and then I think between the 3 of us, then we can give the 2 each that we said we were going to give. And I think it's rolling these things out now between now and Christmas so we can get January underway. You might not be able to do all of these things between now and Christmas, but certainly starting to plan them and set them up is really important. So Paul Jacobs' ones were one-to-one, sitting down with your people to see where they are now, but see where they are now personally. See what's driving them, because that motivation, that drive may have changed from lockdown 1 to lockdown 2 to what's going on from there. Do they see themselves as part of the business? And are they selling the vision and purpose of the business? And therefore, are they aligned? So if sitting down with our people now and finding out what their purpose is and how it aligns with our vision is really important. And going back to Andy's point, if we did that with each individual person, we start to get a really good understanding of how to motivate and how to drive. Paul's second point was then to have what he would call a town hall meeting, a collective meeting of your people, outlining what's going to be happening next year, why, and selling the features, advantages, and the benefits of those things, so everybody gets the collective togetherness moving forward. And it's moving that collective amount of people forward that is really, really important. So they were the 2 things that Paul Jacobs said he would look to roll out now, between now and Christmas, to really get his team on board. Sharpie.
So Andy, thanks for your question. Give us a ring. You've got my number. Give me a ring after this webinar, and I'll talk you through how we can try and advise or guide you. We'll try not to talk about Burnley Football Club too much. So for me, it centres around, I think, measuring the right things. So, you know, measuring how your people are feeling. I think it's measuring your performance against the values. So if you've got a set of values, you should have a set of behaviours. So managing the behaviours and making sure that you don't promote people unless they've got both the results and the behaviours. So I think the softer side of what you measure is really important. And the second thing I'd just add, which is a slight change to the agenda, Mr. Greenwood, is all about making sure you've got a really clear goal, whether it be a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal, whether you're in business on your own or whether you're part of a bigger team. Just make sure that the business has got a goal, but every individual has got a goal as well.
So is that 2 there, Paul, or 3 there now? Still a 2. Good man. Dave?
Yeah, I would just sit down and get each of your staff, your employees, and yourself to write down what is your purpose for 2021. What is it? Why is it that when you get up and you come to work, what's it for? Get it to write it down and make sure that you as the leader understand whether you've got 12 staff, 200 staff, or 5 staff, whatever the number is. Make sure that you understand what it is that's driving them. And we use the phrase, make sure that you're in the right frame of mind. Well, what goes into a frame often is a picture. And I would encourage you as a leader to put yourself in their picture, in your staff's picture, and just try to understand what it is that they want. You know, when we hear that 1 in 5 people are lonely, when we hear that 1 in 6 people are frustrated with what's going on, put yourself in their frame of mind where you can, and try to understand what's going on. Because if you can understand that, you can drive some better behavior, a better performance, better alignment, better purpose, and that will transform 2021 as you reshape your business.
Good point.
Good point. And I think what I added to that when we start to listen, when we've done that, and I think certainly after when we've sat down and sort of tested the temperature and done those type of town hall meetings and looking at what the purpose is, then to me, one of the big things was, how do you then improve people? So it was about devising a training and development plan for each individual person to take them onto that next stage. If you're talking about how they can get promoted, then you need to be training them to be promoted, not once they get there. Let's train them to do the job before they actually get the job. Let's develop their skill sets so they're always being engaged. And I think that's what recruitment has been traditionally very poor at. The usual 1 day, 2 day, a week if you're lucky, 2 weeks if you're extremely lucky, induction course, and then no training for the next 5 years is just not quite right. We need to develop that training plan and working from there. And the final thing that I always say, you know, we do know that setting the right target and articulating them properly to your people genuinely, truly motivates people. And so we've got to start to think about doing those things and doing the right things constantly to do that. And I think if we do that properly and set targets and articulate them properly, and what I always used to do was break down to each individual person how they could achieve their target, and then what that would mean from a commission plan, what they would earn, so they could visualize achieving it, they're trained to achieve it, and they can see what the reward is at the end, then all of a sudden you started to create motivation and things like that. So before we sort of sign off this week, guys, anything else that you want to bring out that you think is ideal for people to know now and push to their teams now before Christmas comes to help create a more motivated, loyal staff that have the purpose and vision at their heart to move forward into 2021?
I think for me, Howard, it's just about doing it. You know, we've got a week, 10 days really left in the business before Christmas. So I would, you know, for me, it's about using the time in between now and Christmas Eve to just get this all done and dusted. And hopefully by doing so, you know, if anybody's got any doubts, you know, people sort of spend Christmas and New Year reflecting on things. If they've got any doubt about your business or what they're doing next year, then hopefully getting it out of the way this side of Christmas means that people are really clear for when they come back in the new year, what they're doing and how they fit in and what their purpose is themselves.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? I just look at among my friendship circle and my business circle, even though Christmas is going to be very different for everybody this year, more than ever, I think people are looking forward to it. They're just not sure quite what they're looking forward to, who they're going to see, who they can see, but they're just looking forward to having some time away. And I think it's really important mentally to do that, because we've said before that when you work from home, you're essentially living at work. And I would just encourage each of the people on this call to actually turn off, to switch off and get some time away, even if you can't physically go away, but from the room in which you're working. Just try to put things to one side and spend a bit of quality time if you're on your own, or whether you're with family. You won't be able to see as many friends as you could do. So the things that you need to get done, try to get them done before you break up, whatever that day that you're breaking up is, 23rd, 24th, whatever it is. And then just try and shut down and recharge your batteries and get ready to go again in 2021. Because the world's not going to change much between now and January. So just take some time out.
I think for me, it's celebrate what you achieved in 2020, irrespective whether you've made a loss, whether you've made you stood still, or whether you've made a positive gain. The fact that you're still functioning in 2021 is a great testament to your business. And you've got to take that, look at what you've learned over the last number of years that you've been in business, look at the successes and look at the failures, and then let's drive that into next year and motivate yourselves to do that. So next week is going to be our last webinar of the year. And what we'll do is we're going to open up the questions to everybody. So as we put out the invites, and you get an invite to this, okay, write your questions down, and what we will endeavour to do is try answer all your questions. In the time gone by when Love Work Life was doing these, Paul Jacobs and I opened ourselves up in the last couple for question and answers, and they were truly great fun. They led us everywhere and anywhere. It was a real sort of head throng into what's going on into the business, and we think it's right that you have the final say so of the year, and we answer your questions and how you want them. So rather than sort of be waiting for Santa to come down the chimney and you're wide awake worrying about your business, let us answer your questions so you can go to sleep from there. Remember, if you want to contact us about a pulse survey of your business, please feel free to contact us about the pulse survey. I have excused the picture of Ringo Starr, Stevie Nicks, and Baby Spice. Paul Sharp's written a blog about these three people and himself. How you get those three and Paul together in the same sentence is beyond me, but he's done that. We're all writing blogs, and they're all going out before Christmas. Please look out for our 12 Days of Christmas special, which, surprisingly enough, is going to run over 12 days. So there's lots of tips and things there for you to follow in that. And as I say, if you've not had a business one-to-one with us yet, feel free to just drop on the website, fill a form in, and call us, and we will book that in and help you develop your business. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's session. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you want anything, by all means, give us a call, and we look forward to your questions and answers next week. Let's put all four of us on the spot and make us really work in this webinar, as we have to think of the answers rather than pre-plan those answers. So guys, thank you very much for your time. It's been much appreciated. Until next week, we'll love you and leave you. Paul, Dave.
Thank you. Blog will be out in 15 minutes.
Hey, well done. Thanks, guys. Have a good week, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.